Now, here's some conclusions that I have based on what we've talked about so far. First of all, America is not mentioned in the Bible. Secondly, America is Israel's main defender today. You think, where would Israel be without the United States? What if we became a second or third-rate power before the rapture takes place? Israel would be in trouble, wouldn't they? One of the reasons I think that we may remain a strong nation up until the time of the rapture, at least decently strong, is because we're the main defender and protector of the nation of Israel. So we're Israel's main defender. And the third point I've just kind of stated, we'll remain strong until then. The fourth thing, the scriptural silence concerning America in the end times indicates America will fall from her position of world prominence. And then next, world power in the end times is centered in the reunited Roman Empire. That's where it's going to be focused. As we're going to say in a few moments, I think we may be part of Antichrist's empire. But it's not going to be centered in the United States. And to me, European prominence can only be explained in light of U.S. decline. So something has to take place. And I believe, my conclusion is, the U.S. will suffer her decline or her fall at the rapture. Now, it could be in fatal combination with some of those other things as well. The economics would follow with that, but think if the rapture happened and a couple of those other things in fatal combination with it. I mean, America would be reduced to some tragic third-rate power overnight. Now, what's going to happen to America? After the rapture, what will we do as a country when we fall from our superpower status? Now, again, nobody knows. The Bible doesn't say. But let me read you what a couple of scholars say about this that I respect. John Walvoord. Although the Scriptures do not give any clear word concerning the role of the United States in relationship to the revived Roman Empire and the later development of the world empire, it's probable the United States will be in some form of alliance with the Roman ruler. That's the Antichrist. Most citizens of the United States of America have emerged from Europe, and their sympathies would be more naturally with European alliance than with Russia or countries in Eastern Asia. Based on geographic, religious, and economic factors, such an alliance of powers seems a natural sequence of present situations in the world. And I would agree with that. Dr. Ryrie, Charles Ryrie, says the same thing. It's not too far-fetched to envision the United States someday aligned with the Western Confederation of Nations, which will be formed by Antichrist. Many United States citizens originally came from the countries which make up that Western Alliance of Nations. So when the European Federations of Nations rises to power, the United States may find herself in a supportive role in favor of this powerful alliance and in opposition to the other power blocks in Russia, Africa, and the Far East. This would mean the United States, haven for Christianity for 2 centuries, will find herself in league with the Antichrist. Pretty sobering, if they're correct in that analysis. And I would agree with that. It makes the most sense to me in our world today. Now that raises the question, and Dr. Heinsohn addressed this in the couple sessions ago, but could the Antichrist come from America? That's one question you always get asked. And Dr. Heinsohn gave a great answer to that, I believe. Daniel 9:26 says that the Antichrist will rise from the same people who destroyed the temple in Jerusalem in 70 A.D., which were the Romans. Now I don't think necessarily that means he has to be an Italian, but I think it means he will come from the core or the center of that reunited Roman Empire, which we know today as Europe. Now, some will say, well, but America came from Europe, so by extension, could the Antichrist be from here in the United States? I don't think so. I think he's going to come from that part of the world. Now, another big issue that's been raised lately, and I don't want to get into this in too much detail, but could the Antichrist be a Muslim? That's been raised. There's a lot of people out there saying that today. There's 2 things that cause me to believe that that's not true. One is, as it says in 2 Thessalonians 2:4, again as Dr. Heinsohn mentioned, that the Antichrist will take his seat in the temple of God and will declare that he is God. No Muslim would do that. If you did that, you wouldn't be a Muslim anymore. Because the tenet of their faith is there's one God, Allah, and his prophet is Muhammad. So if he were a Muslim, he wouldn't be one any longer if he declared himself to be God. Also back in Daniel 11, it says about this coming world ruler that he has no regard for the God of his fathers. And if he's a Muslim, then that means he quit being one, because he has no regard for the God of his fathers, but instead he worships a God of fortresses. He worships the God of military might and power, and ultimately declares himself to be God. My wife was talking to a lady here not long ago. That's I don't really know the lady very well, just kind of a little bit. But my wife's a friend of hers, and the lady was talking to my wife. She said, "Man, your husband must be like the most depressed guy in all the world." And my wife kind of took her by surprise. She said, "Well, why would you say that?" She said, "Man, writing all these books about Bible prophecy and the end times, and all this kind of stuff. Man, he must be, just the most depressed guy, most terrible guy to live with in the world, My wife said, "Well, no, really he's joyful most of the time, happy, And that raises a very interesting question, doesn't it? A lot of people think that about us. They think that about you if you write prophecy books. You must be just some kind of person long-faced and sad. Man, everything's going, downhill. I'm the ultimate optimist, I tell people. The ultimate optimist. Jesus Christ is coming again to rule and reign on the earth. But it's going to get worse before it gets better, according to the Bible. That's just the facts. In fact, the book of Revelation, you could say that the theme of the book of Revelation is how Jesus Christ, by means of judgment, becomes king. Because Jesus becomes king in chapter 19. He's king already, but he comes back and initiates and brings his full authority to the earth. But it's through judgment that he becomes king. It's the seals, the trumpets, and the bowls. And then Christ ultimately becomes the king. That's the truth of the Scripture. And to me, I'll tell you what would really be depressing is if I looked at this world today and if world events were unfolding in a way that was not consistent with the Bible, then I would be depressed. Because then I would believe that we're on a world like being in a car going down a mountain road with nobody at the wheel. And that's the most horrible thing I could ever imagine. But when we look at our world today, world events are unfolding exactly as we should expect them to be unfolding if the Bible's true. And so I believe that there's someone at the wheel. I don't understand everything. There's a lot of mystery to me about this world and about this life. But I believe there's someone at the wheel. And I believe he is going to come back someday, that he's in control, and he's going to set up his kingdom on this earth. I was at Dallas Seminary years ago, and Dr. Don Campbell was the president. And I heard a story about him at the time when he was teaching classes there, that he came into the seminary one day, into his class, and he told the men there, he said, "Man, I was reading the Bible last night in the Old Testament, and I became an amillennialist." Well, they all just aghast. That's the worst thing you could possibly say at Dallas Seminary. He said, no, wait a minute, before you go tell the administration, get me fired. He said, "I was reading last night, sitting in my recliner, and I read Isaiah chapter 2. And then I read Isaiah chapter 11. And then I read the end of Joel chapter 3. And he said, I leaned back in my chair and I said, millennium."